Welcome back, guys, to the Manic Show episode number 2. So today I'm doing a video with Vlad. He's actually a 20-year-old wholesaler in Vegas, and he got into real estate wholesaling completely for free. And now he makes over 6 figures while he's in school full-time, and he actually started with no money at all. On top of that, he actually goes over all of his principles, exactly what he does. He actually even lays out the blueprint of how he got to where he was today without holding anything back. I know you guys are watching this because you're looking for something different in your life, whether it is real estate wholesaling, maybe it's some sort of business, but who knows, maybe this one video is what actually propels you guys into making your next business venture and changing your life in the next 12 to 18 months. So do let this play in the background, take some notes, listen to it just like any other podcast, and just absorb the knowledge and keep learning and keep learning. Let me know if you guys have any questions down below. I'm gonna have all of Vlad's info down below as well, and enjoy. What's up, Vlad? How you been, man?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Good, bro. Good. It is good to have you on the podcast here, man.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate you having me. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, we were just chatting here before the podcast and everything too. So, I'm kind of curious to just kind of learn about you. I know you do a ton of wholesaling. You're kind of focusing in on that. You're getting into the flipping game. You're also a young cat. So, tell me about you, man. Like, where'd you grow up? I know I know you got some foreign parents just like I do. So, did you come from money? Did you go, like, how'd you get into real estate and everything like that? Like, tell me about you.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Russia. I was born in Germany. My dad is actually in the Cirque, so he's in Cirque du Soleil.
Okay.
My mom was as well, and for a time being. And so my dad kind of traveled. When I was young, he was in Germany. That's where I was born. And then at 2 years old, he was recruited for Cirque du Soleil here in Vegas. So he came down here, moved down, and I've kind of grown up, didn't come from money. My parents made, median income, I would say, for the most part. And, both of them are athletes. So literally no type of business exposure for the most part.
Sure.
Kind of just, me. And so, for a long time, that was all I did as well. I was always been, good in school and stuff like that. But I like sports a lot. I played football. I thought I was going to, be serious about it and, get pretty far. But what ended up happening was, I went to high school and, I was good. I was good going into high school. And then I had some trouble with coaches, stuff like that. And so my recruitment kind of, slowed down.
Sure.
So I was getting recruited by some smaller schools. And then hometown UNLV, they ended up actually, making me a preferred walk-on offer. So basically, they were going to pay for everything, but I'd be still walking on without a scholarship. So, I ended up walking on to play football. I played about like 5 months, and I was like, I hate it. I hate it here. I was like, I don't know. I was not like up there on the depth chart like I thought I was going to be. My expectations were way higher, and the coaches didn't like me. They didn't even want me there. So I went out on a whim and I just quit. So that's kind of where my, entrepreneurship journey kind of starts. Up to that point, kind of really thought about it really for the most part. Just kind of thinking like, I'll get there when I get there. Right now I'm playing football, getting good grades, and then we'll figure it out as we go. I'm getting my, business degree. And so then, after I quit, and I remember I came home and I cried because I was like, I just, spent all my life, playing football. And then I just kind of, I don't know, maybe I overreacted and I just quit. Cause like I walked out of practice. Like I was like, I'm done with this, whatever. It went turned into all my stuff. And so I had to sit down and like really think about it. And ultimately I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like I don't know, like what's next. And so for the next 6 months, I kind of just was really sad, bro. I was really, really down. I would say it was really tough because when you do something for so long and that's like the only thing you're exposed to, right? And then you stop doing it. It's like, dude, that was my whole life. Like, what do I do now? And so what ended up happening was I was like, yeah, after like 6 months, I was like, I can't keep feeling sorry for myself. I got to figure out what I want to do. And so started looking at different stuff. Got sucked into like a pyramid scheme for like 2 days. I didn't even know what it was. And I was like, they're like, yeah, you got to recruit people. I was like, is this a pyramid scheme? They're like, well, this is called multi-level marketing. I was like, nah. I'm
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
It was Prime America. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I still have friends to this day. They're like inviting me. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to your shit. I don't want to.
Dude, I'm getting my finance degree, so these people are recruiting me. They're like, be a financial advisor with us, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like I'm like that's awesome, that sounds pretty cool, like financial advisor. But then come to find out, it's basically an MLM. It's like you get paid to recruit people, and I'm like, no, dude, that's not what I want to do.
yeah,
So I do that for 2 days, and then I'm like, well, got to keep finding stuff. Somebody recommends me an internship with like an insurance company selling life insurance, and I go and I do that for like a week, and I'm like, I hate it. I don't even believe in life insurance, so why would
yeah,
I sell
yeah.
it to people? I was like, I can't do it. And so then I'm just kind of lost again. Whatever. I have a part-time job. I'm working, making money, but it's not like crazy money. And so then I'm just like, what do I do? What do I do? So I started looking into other stuff, and I get into podcasts. And one of the first podcasts I listened to is Bigger Pockets, like always. I listened to it. I'm like, okay, real estate is interesting. So then I go to Real Estate Disruptors, and the first person I listened to is actually one of our coaches. So I listened to Ryan Pineda, if anybody knows him. And this guy's like, hey, I'm flipping 100 homes in Las Vegas. I was like, whoa. First of all, 100 homes, and second of all, in Las Vegas. I was like, I live in Las Vegas. I've never heard of this guy, but he's
Yeah.
flipping 100 homes. And I was like, I go to the computer. I'm like, what is the average profit per house flip? And it was like 20. It could be 25 to 50,000. I was like, this guy's a multimillionaire. I was like, I need to reach out to him. So I end up just kind of reaching out to him, and I'm like, let me get into real estate. Like, I'll do anything. I'll work for you for free. Whatever it takes. And he just kind of blows me off. He's like, whatever, get your real estate license, become an agent. And I was like, dude, what do I do? And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to take initiative, and I'm actually going to get started myself. And so that was like the start of my real estate journey. I would say it was just, taking that initiative that, hey, like nobody's going to help me. Like if I want to help, I need to help myself. And, after that, maybe I'll get some respect whenever I get, deals, or like people see that I'm actually doing it. Like, cause so many people, and I realize it now, especially, that so many people are like, hey, like help me, mentor me. And I'm like, all right, do this, this, and this.
Yep.
And they're like, all right. And then they're like, help me. Like 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, did you do those things I asked you to do? No, but I don't understand how, you know what I mean? And it's like, you want me to hold your hand through it or what? Like, because when I started out, nobody held my hand through it. I was literally going to door knock houses and, trying to find deals in literally Vegas heat, which is like 115 degrees some days. And it was in the middle of the summer. And literally the first guy that opened the door and said he wanted to offer, I was going to ask him like, so how do we do this? Because I literally didn't even know, you know what I mean? So
that's awesome.
That was kind of my start.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think a lot of people right now are definitely kind of in a similar kind of type of crossroads where they're like, I want to do something, I have the ambition, but I don't really know what to do. And I'm sure you as well get it all the time where people are like, hey, what do I do? Do I get my license? Like they keep asking these questions, but nobody takes initiative. And it's like when you actually just start taking initiative, the same person that you ask for advice from, you're going to get a lot more respect from. So I'm sure when you start taking initiative, Ryan was like, okay, like this dude's actually, doing stuff instead of just asking questions. And those people that just ask questions, but they don't do anything about it, I call those, there's a term for them, and it's called asshole.
Yeah, absolutely.
They literally just, they'll ask questions about business. I'm sure everybody's got that one friend where he breaks up that girlfriend. He always asks for advice, but always ends up back with her. Like,
yeah, exactly.
People ask for advice, but they don't take any action. So that's awesome that you did that. So to kind of recap, how old were you at this point with everything? You were in college.
Yeah. So I was 19 years old, and that's when I was like trying to figure it out. And, so I guess I left a part out. The day before, my 20th birthday, I went to a meetup, and it was a real estate meetup. So I encourage anybody who's like trying to get into real estate to go to a meetup, because at this time, like I said, I heard about Ryan, and I heard that he was flipping houses. So I'm like, I want to flip houses. That's ultimately what I want to do. And I still want to do that. But, for me at that time, I had about $600 in my bank account. So, you know, it's like, what am I flipping? Like, I'm not flipping anything. Like, there's there's nothing to flip.
Yep.
Like, I got
Yeah.
to get some money first. And
Right.
so I went to a meetup and I met some cool people here in Vegas, and they're like, you know, like everybody was impressed. They're like, "You're 19 years old." I was like, almost 20, but you know, day before my 20th birthday. I was like, "But you know, you're taking initiative. I wish I would have done that when I was you." I was like, "Yeah, sure, you know, but how do I start? Where do I start? Like, I really want to." And somebody was like, "Well, you know, look into wholesaling." And I was like, "Whoa, what's
Right.
that?" And they're like, "You basically contract the property, and you know, you get it under contract, and then you know flip the contract to a cash buyer, somebody like Ryan or you know any of us in this room, and we'll buy it from you." And so I was like, I was like, you know, that's interesting, but you know, then again, I had to go home and I had to actually research it and like find it out, you
Yeah.
know, what wholesaling was, because at this point they just kind of mentioned it to me, and then you know, I told my dad, I was like, you know, I want to try this, and he was like, sounds like a scam. I was like, no, it's legit. It's legit. Like, it's legit. I'll show you. I'll prove it that it's legit, and then you could watch me do it. And then so at that point, you know, I was researching. I wouldn't say I was over analyzing. I just analyzed just enough for me to understand, like, okay, I you know need to do this,
Yeah.
and so you know, I was like, once I get, you know, a lot of people what they do is they ask like, okay, but what like I do this, but what do I do once I do that? Like what do I do next? What do I do next? And for me, I was like, find out when I get there. Like I'll
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Like I'll take the first step, and then it's like, all right, what do I do now? Okay, we figured it out. All right, let's take that next step. All right, well, this is new. I've never done this. Let's figure it out. So
Yeah.
for me, it was researching, finding out about you know wholesaling, and then I was like, all right, let's take that first step, and we'll find the rest out like, kind of later.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think so many people are just scared of just taking that first step and then they never end up doing anything. You know what I mean? They just kind of sit there and just kind of spin in circles. So to kind of go from there. So what was the first step for you? So you only had $600 at this time. You were starting to get your real estate license, right? So at that point as
Yeah.
well. And now you're like, I'm gonna start wholesaling. So what did that first step look like? How long were you still doing that first step? Like how long did you knock on doors for?
So yeah. So July 14th is my birthday. So the day before my birthday, I went to that meetup, found out about wholesaling, analyzed probably, you know, through the end of July, and then in the beginning of August, I started to door knock, and I was door knocking tax delinquent lists.
Yeah.
So there was a tax sale like at that time, around that time, and I actually ended up going out to all the houses that were going to be on the tax sale, and I was trying to get them like the day before, like a couple days before, like, hey, I'll make you a cash offer before your house gets sold at the tax sale. And so I was doing that, but I couldn't get it. I didn't get anything, and so I was doing that. You know, didn't get anything. I actually went to one house, and the lady opened the door, and she was like, I was like, hey, you know, I was trying to, you know, make an offer on this property, and my maximum offer on that property was 120. And she was like, oh, hey, like another investor just left. Here's the contract. I just signed for 100. I was
Ah,
like, man, I was like, so close. I was like,
yeah.
if I was, because he just left. He literally said like he just left. Now I look down the street and the car's there's literally a car driving away. I
Yeah.
was like that's crazy. I was like, you know, really trying to get that first deal. And you know, at that point, you know, I was door knocking for probably a month or 3 weeks till I finally got my first deal,
Got it.
which was not even really a first deal. It was just kind of, well, it was a first deal because you know I ended up partnering with the guy, but we could talk about that
Yeah,
later.
yeah, for sure. So, same thing right there. I mean, it took you almost a full month to actually get your first deal. I think a lot of people have the misconception that it's like they're going to go knock out for like a weekend and they're going to get like 3 deals. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like you were just grinding away. And where'd you pull this list from? I'm sure there's a lot of people kind of wondering that too. Like, how'd you find out which properties to actually go to?
Yeah. So for me, I didn't have money, and I didn't want to spend money because I was like,
Sure.
I don't know if this is like legit. Well, I didn't know. Not that I didn't know if it was legit. I was bought in, but I was like, I don't want to end up with nothing, you know. So I'd
Right.
rather just do the freeways, and I'd rather hustle because I know I can hustle. I'm a hustler. I've always been a hustler, so I'll figure it out. So what I did was I just went to our county assessor's website and I found all of the tax delinquent properties, and I would
Got it.
go. Those are free, and so I would go and you know, on the county assessors, they make it as hard for you as possible. So they do it by parcel number. So I'd look up the parcel numbers individually. I would write them down on a piece of paper. Probably I would get like, 30 or 40. Then I would go on Google Maps. I would research every one of them. I'd find, 6 or 7 that were in the same area. And then I would go, knock those doors, and then possibly knock a few distressed doors while I was in that area, as well. So that was kind of the game plan. And so, I wouldn't say I was doing it, all day, every day, because like I said, I was working at that time as well. So, a few hours a day. And I was like, I'll get there. I'll get there at one point.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So 3 weeks later, you kind of stumble across your first deal. So tell us about that. How that happened. So were you still knocking on tax delinquent doors at this time?
Yeah. So I was, but my first deal wasn't even the tax delinquent. So what happened was I was going home from class. I just got out of class, and I was like, I'm gonna drop by and knock a few doors. Like, why not?
Love it.
I'm already,
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I was going down, and I go, get next to this house. I'm about to knock on the door, and the guy opens the door. I almost fall in because like, I didn't expect him to be there. And so I'm like, hey, like, it looks pretty distressed inside. I'm like, hey, would you be interested in, in the offer? And he was like, I really appreciate it, but my tenants kind of trashed the place. He's like, but I'm an investor myself, so he's like, I'll deal with it. I'll figure it out. And I was like, okay, well, fine. And he was like, hey, but how old are you? I was like, I'm 20 years old. And he was like, hey, like, just keep on doing it, and it's gonna work out for you. You're gonna, you're gonna have that big break. And it's kind of crazy because I was like, dang, that's pretty nice of him. Like, usually people are kind of mean, So this guy's nice. And I literally turn around and I look across the street, and I see a broken I see a broken window on the house, across the street. And so I'm like, maybe let's try this one. And I go in and knock it, and I'm like, hey, would you be interested in a cash offer? And, I've told you the story. This is Crazy Ray. So the guy's name's, Crazy Ray. He goes by Crazy Ray, and he's like, yeah, man, get me the hell out of this house. Like, and I was like, oh, well, that's a motivated seller right there. And he was like, yeah, I hate it here, blah, blah, blah. It's like, look, it's like trashed. I was in jail, whatever. So, this is my first time really doing a deal. And this guy's like, come in my house, like sit down, I'll talk to you.
Jail, come in.
Yeah. So I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I was like, but I'll do it because I'm really trying to get this deal. So, I mean, I don't recommend it to everybody. Definitely stay safe. But, I really wanted to do it. I knew this guy was motivated. I knew, like I didn't know wholesaling possibly, but I know, how to run business. I've done, sales before in my life. So I know how to sell somebody. So once I realized what his kind of pain points were, which is he wanted to get out of the house, and he kind of felt like the house was weighing him down. He had like a bankruptcy and stuff like that. So, my solution was, hey, we can make you an offer. We can close on it as is. You don't have to clean anything up, and, we'll net you the amount of money that you want. How much do you want to, leave with after your mortgage? And he was like, I want to leave with, 15,000. He was like, I'm trying to buy a motorhome and get out. I was like, all right, I think we could do that. I think we can make the numbers work. And so ultimately I kind of left that day, but I, like I said, I didn't expect to get a deal then, or, a verbal agreement.
Sure.
So I didn't have a contract or anything like that. And I really didn't know how to operate a contract at that point.
Sure. No, absolutely. And I get a ton of questions just kind of asking every single time of like, let's say you do get that actual appointment, and you're actually really, really good at this. So we can kind of dive in a little bit deeper there. When you're kind of asking about the pain points and things like that too, what do you specifically look for when you do meet a seller? Is there any specific questions that you always ask? Because I'm sure every time you meet every single seller now, the conversation kind of flows the same way, like the way you're guiding it. I'm sure like it might steer off in different directions, but you kind of put them back on track, and you kind of ask the right questions as far as your pain points. So what are some things during every appointment that you make sure that you walk away with knowing? Like, is there specific questions like mortgage amount? Like what do you absolutely have to know every single time you go?
Yeah, I just kind of, I try to be as human as possible, because a lot of people, they feel like they have to, they have to kind of follow the script. Like, okay, I need to ask this, I need to ask this, I need to ask this. But, I kind of let the conversation flow every time. I kind of build off of the other person, because at the end of the day, everybody's human. Everybody wants to be treated like, like a human being. So if you can really get on that level, like with somebody that, hey, I'm vulnerable, like you're vulnerable, like let's connect and let's see how we can solve your problem. Like that's kind of what I'm, aiming for every time. And I feel like I've gotten pretty good at that because, now I'm like, hey, just tell me like what's going on, like, what's the issue? It seems like a nice house, but is it the repairs? I know the house needs a little bit of repairs. Like, what's going on? And they're like,
Yeah.
and then they start to open up because it's like, well, this guy's not, pressuring me to sell. It's like he just wants to know what's going on. And then at that point, I'm like, hey, don't worry about it. That happens often. Like, kind of ask them what's going on, trigger that pain point, and then kind of counsel them, and then let them know that, like, hey, this is not, one of a kind situation. We've dealt with this before, and this is how we've dealt with it. And we can do this and this for you. If you feel like that's something that you'd want to do, then at that point, we can help you out. If not, then that's perfectly fine as well. And I feel like that's been pretty successful for me.
Absolutely. So pretty much you go in and you kind of ask them what's been going on with their house. What is their situation? You're just kind of like, did somebody pass away? You're just kind of figuring out what their pain point actually is, like why they're in this situation that they're in. Is there anything that you make sure that you absolutely must know before you leave an appointment? Like I know for me, when I meet buyers and sellers, for example, I'll guide the conversation naturally, but I know for sure, for example, like I need to know if the buyer is pre-approved. You know what I mean? Like specific things. So is there anything with a seller that you absolutely have to know before you leave? Like whether it's mortgage amount, is there anything that you like, do you kind of feel them out for price? Like what do you kind of make sure that you find out for sure? Every
Yeah. Yeah. Every time I go to an appointment, I mean, I have to find out the price. I need to know what it is. If they're not cracking on price, then, I'll give them a range,
Sure.
which is what everybody should do. Like, hey, I've seen the house, and, we'd offer somewhere between, 100 to 130, let's say. And they'd be like, you know, okay, like you can judge their reaction to it at that point. If they don't even blink, it's like, okay, like we're in the same ballpark. But if they're like, "Ugh, 130, like, are you kidding me? I was thinking more like 190." Then
Sure.
at that point, it's like either bring them down to real life, like, hey, what are you thinking? Or maybe, maybe they can get 190. And as an investor, you should have a pulse on your market. You should know. So it's like, if you list it, uh, as an agent, obviously, for anybody that doesn't know, I'm also a real estate agent. So have my license. And so for me, I always have to disclose. So if I'm disclosing to to a seller, then I should, let them know that, hey, getting a cash offer might not be the highest offer that you get.
Sure.
So it's always, the price. I always get into price and kind of what they're looking for. If you want to wait 3 or 4 months and possibly get 15 to 20K higher, then for sure, be my guest. We could list it, and that's the route we could take. If you need to sell yesterday, then it's probably better for you to get a cash offer, but it's gonna have to be my price, a price that I'm comfortable with, my investors are comfortable with. And
Absolutely.
so yeah, and so price is major. And I like to fill out kind of like who they've been talking to, because I don't want my offer shopped. I don't want, the last thing I want is to, and we're talking about like me walking away without a contract. Usually I want to walk away with the contract. At that point, it's like I have all the leverage because pen went to paper, and, we're locked up. So other investors come in, too, too bad, so sad, or else, we're going to have issues. But coming in or leaving without, getting signed, which is pretty common, because even if you tell them like, I'll go on this appointment if you're ready to commit, and then they're like, well, give me a day to think about it.
Sure.
Sometimes, like, if I know that they're not really talking to anybody, they're really just thinking, I'll let it go. I'll be like, okay, yeah, I'll call you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. You're going to let me know yes or no. If anything, if there's issues that you need answered, we'll go like that. But, if they're like, I have other people talking to me, sometimes they're bluffing. So what I'll do, well, okay, well, this is my offer today, right now. If you're not happy with it, then that's fine. You don't have to take it. I was like, but later on, this is not going to be the same offer.
Sure. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
if you come back tomorrow, if those investors go way lower than me, this offer only stands for today. And then
Yeah.
at that point, they're like, they're like, well, shoot, I was kind of lying. I didn't really have any investors coming to look. And so now I'm like, he caught my bluff. And now, I'll, I guess agree to the price because, it makes sense. And, that's kind of the basics. I'm trying to figure out like, what's the price, what's the motivation, and is anybody else involved? Because, that's important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Perfect, man. Awesome. Awesome. So going back to the story there, you lock up that first deal and you didn't even have, so what'd you do next? Like how'd you find the contract? Like what'd you do? What were your next steps there?
Yeah. So, at that point, I had reached out to Ryan. So, he knew about me, I knew about him. And so I was like, all right, well, this guy is motivated, but I don't know what to do. Now I need a contract and I need, what's it called? So I called Ryan and, I give him a call and I'm like, hey, I know I was telling you I want to work together and stuff like that, but now I actually have a deal. So like, would you be interested in buying it? I was like, but under one condition, like you have to help me because I don't know what to do. And he's like, shoot, heck yeah. Cause
Yeah.
He's making money. He's about to make money. So it's like free money just called, and
Yeah.
it's like, why would I not help this young guy? If he's literally asking for help, but he's giving me value as well. So I ended up meeting with him at his office the next day. And that was kind of our first time like formally meeting and talking. And he was like, it's like, dang, you're young, whatever. Like, that's cool. But, let's get it done. We called the seller together and he's like, yeah, like, let's meet this day. We end up going, we meet, and we, got a contract signed together. And ultimately, that deal was really tough. The guy was like trying to back out later. He was like, whatever. And we had it locked up. And it wasn't like it was a low deal either. It was like a fair condition of the house, to the offer that we gave.
Sure.
So his whole thing was like he got too greedy because we were like, we'll get you what you want. And then he's like, wait, but I want more, So that ended up coming up. But, for the most part, it was a pretty easy first deal. And Ryan ended up actually paying me out, an assignment fee from that.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So you finished up the first deal. You probably made what, like 5, 10, 15K? Like how much was the assignment?
Dude, I made $2,500. That's it. Because it ended up being a lot less than I thought it would because the guy ended up owing more on the mortgage than the mortgage company thought he owed, which is weird. That's never happened to me since. But
yeah,
the mortgage statement, they send it in and it was a certain amount. Then we go to not close, but it was like a week before closing, and they're like, oh shoot, it's actually like 7,000 more. So it's like that ate into our profit. I think Ryan actually ended up wholesaling it too because he didn't want to deal with it. And so, at that price, so he ended up making like 5 and I made 2,500, and then whatever the buyer ended up, selling it for whenever he flipped it.
Yeah. But I think that's awesome though, because you, not only did you learn, now you picked up somebody that you could pick up tips from in the future. And you also, you had $600 in your account before. Now you pretty much like 5x, you know what I mean? Like what you have now.
Yeah.
That's freaking awesome. So what were your next steps there? So you, not only did you learn, I mean, you locked up some more money. Now you know what a contract does look like, what a deal looks like. I bet now you're like, hell yeah, let's go. Like after that, I bet you were like, okay, like this is actually a thing now. So what were your steps from there to actually start kind of scaling a little bit more?
Yeah. So from there, I started cold calling, but I was cold calling like finger dialing with the Google Voice because I was still cheap. I was like, 2,500 is not enough. I was like, when I close like a real wholesale deal, that's when I'll get a dialer to start calling. But I did start spending money on skip tracing. So skip tracing is still expensive. So it adds up for sure. So data is not cheap. So I started spending money on skip tracing. I started skip tracing all of those tax delinquents. So I didn't have to pay for lists, but I would get the tax delinquents. I would still go line by line and take, at night. This was like from 10 o'clock to 11:30. I would sit and I would literally go one by one. I was like, I'm gonna get a deal because nobody else is doing this. And I was like, I'm gonna catch somebody that might not be on any other list like that people are buying. And I was like, I'll catch somebody. So that was my whole thing. And I would hand dial. And the next deal was actually I ended up calling the daughter of a lady that was selling, or not selling, but needed to sell, and that's how I got my next deal.
Awesome. So you were still 20 at this time. You locked up a second one, and I'm sure at this point it just kind of started snowballing faster and faster because now you're getting more and more capital. Now you're like, hey, I'll probably try doing different things like texting, calling, and all that stuff as well. So
Yeah.
So tell me about the big one, man, the 50K check. How did that come about? What happened there? What was that like? I'm sure everybody wants to know.
That one was actually like 41.8, and that one was probably the easiest deal I've done.
That's how it always
Honestly.
goes. The big ones are always easiest,
Honestly, man. And this is what I mean. I didn't mean for it to be that big of an assignment. I mean, it's nice, but what was the situation here in Vegas was it was coronavirus, like just, it broke out. So all the buyers were like hiding and they're like not buying anything, or if they're buying, they're like, yeah, give me 65 cents minus repairs. And I'm like, dude, what the heck, dude?
Yeah.
Who do you think I am, dude? Like the market hasn't dropped. Why do you think the prices are gonna drop like that? So I went driving for dollars. This is a driving for dollars lead, and driving for dollars and texting. So, the first drove for dollars, texted him. The first, right as I texted him, I get a text back. If you're not at 220, don't come. 220K. And so I'm like, dang, this guy is serious. So I look, and ARV is like 290 to 300. So I was like, that's already a deal, basically. Like in old times, I was like, but I'm kind of scared. I was like, because nobody's really buying right now, so nobody's gonna buy it, at that. Like, I could probably flip it if I wanted to, but I don't have like crazy amount of funds at this time either. I mean, I had money to flip it if I wanted to, but I just didn't want to. So I was like, I need to figure out a wholesale price. And so I was like, okay, that's fine. I was like, I'll go on this appointment anyways and try to get him down. So I go on this appointment. I was like, I want to be at 190. I was like, because I feel like I might be able to sell it for 210. And, 210, 190, I'll make a 20K assignment. I was like, which is good. But I was like, I want to be at 190. So go on this appointment. And, the sellers, they just want to, get rid of the property, which is, pretty common a lot of the time. And they're like, they actually bought a fixer. They bought a fixer. It needed, to be fixed up. And they never fixed it up. It was like that for like 12 years. They just lived in it. They're like, we're never home. I guess they travel a lot or whatever. And so I was like, okay, I can make you an offer. But when I first got in the door, he was like, if you're not 220, make sure to let me know. So then like I could tell you to we can walk our separate ways, no harm, no foul. And so I'm like, all right. And then, halfway through, I'm like, hey, look, I'm not going to be at 220. I'm going to be honest with you. I was like, I still want to make it work. And, I told them about the cash offer process. They didn't even know. They thought I was there to list the property. So they're like, okay, what are the agent fees? I was like, no fees. Like, I'll make you guys a cash offer. Like I have investors that will come in and buy it. I, let them know that I will wholesale it. And, you don't never use the term wholesale when you're doing that, but let them know that you have buyers that will come in and close on this deal. And, whether that's you could say they're partners or, just buyers in your network. So like we have buyers in my network. We never have to put this on the market. Like we can literally close on this within, 2 weeks. Is that something that you'd want to do? And they're like, heck yeah. And then they're like, I was like, you can keep all the junk here too. And that kind of sealed the deal. Like when you're an investor, you have to find what would like kind of sweeten the deal up for people. And you have to stress that part, which is like a big gem, I think, because for them, they had all this junk and they were like, we're trying to move and downsize. And they're like, what do we do with all this stuff? And I was like, you could leave it here. And they're like, what, are you serious? Like, yeah, we'll throw it all away. Like dead serious. Like all the old furniture, like leave it. It's like, what? That's crazy. Like, that's so awesome. You're like the best. And I was like, it's pretty standard for an investor, but like we know that's pretty standard for us. But for them, a seller that needs that service, they may not know that. So make sure to find out kind of what they need and like really stress that you can provide that and go above and beyond for them. And I was even offering them like a moving truck for all their small stuff, but they were nice. They declined. So basically the guy was like, what? That's crazy. I'm definitely, interested in that. Where would you need to be at? And I was thinking 190, but then I was like 180. I need to be at 180. And he was like, okay. I was like, I was like, what?
So when he accepted, were you like super happy? You're like, oh shit, man, I should have tried 170. Like, what? I'm curious in your psychology at the moment. Were you hell yeah? Or were you like, shit, I should have went even lower?
No, I knew it was a good deal at that time.
Good, yeah.
Like I said, I knew it was going to be 210. I wasn't getting greedy. The only reason that I was, dipping that low was because at that time I had another deal earlier that month, and literally I had it at 190, and I was trying to sell it for 220, and had an ARV of 300, but it needed a little bit more work because it needed a new roof. It was in the same area,
Yeah.
and I was trying to sell it, and freaking everybody was offering me like 195 to 192, 195, 197. And it's like, that's an assignment deal. All right. But it's like, dude, the ARV is like 300. I was like, and you guys are offering me 195.
Right.
Like people are really scared. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, let's do it then. He was like, well, we need to think about it. Like my wife and I, we need to talk about it first. And so I was like, all right, how much do you need? He was like, give me a week. I thought you were ready to go. You guys don't want to, do it? Yeah. And he's like, no, we need a week. Okay. So, 5 days, always follow up like a little bit earlier than you said you would. So 5 days in, I'm like, hey, you guys ready? No, we're not ready. Okay. I'll follow up with you at 7 days. Follow up at 7. They're like, hey, we want to let you know, like I left him a contract, to sign. We want to let you know that we want an attorney to look over it to make sure that we're safe. And so that I always encourage sellers to get it, whatever, representation they need or whatever, it needs to be just to like get the liability off me that I'm not, telling them not to. Like I always tell them, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
As we sometimes know, attorneys, they're often cash buyers themselves. So they'll, mess up a deal sometimes, especially in like hot markets, because they're like, wait, they offered 180? Let me see that house. I'll offer you 210 and I'll close cash. They have money too. So it's like, I've heard stories where, attorneys have been like, I'll offer like 10K more. And then at that point, kind of kills the deal. So I was pretty nervous at that point. Cause I'm like, I think it's a good deal, but I got to make sure that, we sign and we get going with it. And so, I'm kind of, sweating bullets, and one day goes by too. 3 days, and I follow up, they're like, he hasn't looked at it still. Follow up in another 2 days, nothing. Follow up the next day. And then I was following up every day. So basically 2.5 weeks later, that's when they were finally, after, I called them, I was like, hey, like, you ready? Are you more ready than you were yesterday or the day before? And they're like, yeah, let's move forward. He looked at it, we just have a couple things that we'd want you to change, and then, we'll be good to go. So I was like, all right, let's do it.
Cool. So you obviously just reached out to your buyers list. Somebody came in, they ended up snagging it up, and you got a huge assignment fee there. So that's 40K plus. That's nuts.
Yeah, it was a crazy assignment deal. When I ended up sending it out, I was like, I'm gonna send it out at 215. I was like, what if we get a little straggler in here and somebody wants to buy it at 215, like maybe a newer investor. I send it out, and literally within like 5 minutes, all the biggest investors in town tell me, send over the assignment, I'll buy it at 215. So I'm like, bro, what? I was like, hold up. Everybody's like, because at this time, it was 2.5 weeks after I had first seen it. So now the market was kind of heating up again. It was like, market started heating up. So it's like, all of a sudden people are like, the coronavirus, it's happening, but we gotta live through it. So buyers are starting to come back out of the woodwork. Like, they're starting to buy. And so these guys are like, we're hungry. We haven't bought in a month and a half, 2 months now, ready to buy. Let's go. 215, send it over. And so I'm answering calls like crazy. I'm like, hey, 215, I have an offer at 215. I have an offer at 216, 217, 218. We get all the way to 220. And he's like, I'll go higher if you want me to. I was like, nah, it's fine. I was like, it's fine. We'll keep it at 220. Because I was like, whenever he sees my assignment fee, he'll be happy that I didn't drive him up even more. And I let him know that even though he was willing to go higher, I, stopped it right there. Because, I knew I was getting a good assignment fee out of it anyways. And I wanted him to make money. So I feel like that's an important part as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, I'm sure he'll come back to you and buy some stuff in the future, especially if you trust your numbers and stuff like that too,
Yeah. He
Yeah, that's
yeah,
nuts.
he reaches out to me like every day. He's like, hey, let me buy that one. It's a good deal for him too, though, because the market has went up way more since then. So the ARV is way above 300 now as well. So it's like it's crazy.
Yeah, no, pretty much everybody wins. Like the seller gets what they want, you get a huge assignment fee. They still make money flipping it, and it's just like a
Yeah,
win across the board, from everybody. And he didn't have to do any work to find the property. You brought it to him,
yeah,
so
exactly.
everybody pretty much wins. So you got a huge assignment fee there. And you're still in college right now, right? With everything too. You were doing this all while you were in college, and still literally going through class and everything like
Yeah, I would get calls like in the middle of class, and I'd have to like leave. I was doing like a wholesale deal, and they're like, I had a call and I had to go out of the lecture, and they're like, the seller didn't show up to closing. I was like, oh my god, like people, all the people are in class looking out at me. I'm like cussing. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like outside class. But yeah, I'm still in class right now, like in school, and finishing up. I don't know, kind of indifferent about it at this point because whatever. But I
it's
got
the foreign parents, man. They're gonna make you finish it. That's how it goes.
the foreign parents, man.
That's
Foreign
how it
parents for
goes.
sure.
That's how it goes. So what's your future look like, man? Like what are your visions? I mean, I'm assuming you're not gonna pursue your degree 100% quite. I'm sure it's there in the background just in case, but like I'm assuming you're gonna go all in on the real estate game, right? Like is that your plan? Or like what are you planning on doing in the future here?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't really see myself doing anything else anymore. I'm going to be doing real estate in some capacity. We're actually buying my first flip right now. We're closing this month, so that's that. Like I said, like before, that was always my goal in the beginning. Like I
Yeah.
wanted to flip, and for me, it was like, okay, you got to wholesale. You got to make some money before you can, flip. And so now it's like I've wholesaling is important because it's important to know how to get deals,
Yep.
how to source good deals, but it's also important because you need that money to start flipping if you want to get into that. So right now we're buying my first flip. It's going to be a really big profit as well because it's actually a bigger house than we first anticipated. So hope we're supposed to close on the 25th, and hopefully maybe the market will appreciate a little bit more. Maybe it'll be even a better deal. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't see myself doing anything else really. It's going to be real estate from now on, flipping, wholesaling. Um, the goal next year is to do multiple flips. I want to do at least 6-7 flips, and in 2021, and probably the same amount of wholesale deals here in Vegas. And I'm trying to expand into another market as well right now, and kind of getting my feet wet and seeing if that's something that I want to do.
Yeah, no, man, that's freaking awesome. And I'm sure people are wondering what do you think you're gonna make on this flip here that you just bought? Like what is your projected profit?
Projected profit after everything, it's about 50.
That's insane. That's nuts. And you're still finishing up school. So are you in your last semester or what?
So I have 2 more semesters.
Okay.
I have 2 more semesters of school. Right now, what the coronavirus really helped me out because I didn't. As you get kind of into the higher levels, you have to be in class and like in-person class. And right now, there's no in-person class, so all of my higher level classes I'm taking online, which for me means like logging on for like an hour, doing my schoolwork real fast, and like shutting the computer off for school. Like I don't know. I'm just not very bought into school at this point. I'm not saying drop out or nothing like that to anybody that's like, but I feel like, you know, if the best thing to do while you're in school is, what the problem that I see with a lot of people is they kind of just like, oh, I'm a full-time student. Like there's a lot of full-time students. That's not an accomplishment. Like, and if you feel like, and even for jobs nowadays, like just going to school, that's not enough anymore. You know what I mean? You're not going to get a good job if yeah, like, oh yeah, well, I was a full-time student and I worked at, Hollister. It's like good, but like, Hollister doesn't really do too much. Like I would encourage anybody, if you're in school, try to do something that's like meaningful outside of school as well, in your field. So like if you want to get into marketing, do like reach out to businesses and try to do social media marketing for them. And this is like outside of real estate, but this like applies to anybody, I would say. So for me, I knew I wanted to get into real estate. So I was like, I'll go into real estate, and, do some deals, hopefully like do a deal as I'm, in school. And then it became more than that, where it's like, it kind of flopped around like, hey, I'm doing real estate. I'm just in school just cause, you know, at this point.
Right,
And
right.
so I think that's important because a lot of people feel like their life doesn't start till they get out of college, but really like your young years are super important for finding out what you want to do, even if it's like grinding like 24/7 outside of your, you know, school time.
Yeah, no, 100%. And a lot of people don't realize how much free time they actually have. So it's like you're awake for 100 hours a week. Like most people are, you know, for 100 hours a week, if you're only working 40, it's like, what are you doing with your 60 hours? You know, you might be sure you might be commuting, let's say 10 of them. What are you doing with 50 hours, you know, with all
Yeah,
that? It's like a lot of people don't realize how much time they actually have. And you were just doing you know, the door knocking for a few hours a week, you know, a few hours a day, a few days per week. So
yeah,
what came out of that. So there's plenty of things people can do. I think they just don't realize that they just need to start.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that's the most important part is just starting. Just start. Like in whatever you want to do, just do it because you know, wherever you are right now, if you're looking into something else, either you want to better yourself or you're not happy with where you are in your current state, you know, whatever that may be. So, you know, if you don't try anything, then, you know, you don't try anything. But let's say you try it and you fail, what's the worst that can happen? You'll just be right back where you started off. So it's like,
Right.
you know, the opportunity is infinite, but the downside is minimal because it's like if you're broke and you have nothing, well, guess what? If you fail, you'll just be broke with nothing again, once again. So it's like then you start building up again. So
Right.
you know, take risks, especially when you're young. And I feel like I've been good at that, and you know, that's something I'm proud of. That you know, I don't want to put stuff off for later. Like, hey, you know, a lot of people started when they're, you know, 25, 26. Well, I want to start now. I'm 21, so I want to start now. And maybe when I'm 25, 26, I'll be much more ahead. So kind of,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah, you're never too young. You're never too old to start. You know, you just
never,
matter what
never.
just get going, and your life could be insanely different within it. I mean, I'm sure you could say this firsthand. Your life was way different 2 years ago than it is now. You know what I mean? So,
Absolutely.
you know, as far as everything. So,
And two,
one
and
one or
two
two
years,
years can go like that.
yeah, and 2 years from now, it's probably going to be even more different for the both of us. So it's like,
Yep.
you know, life happens, you know, and you
Right.
never know. Like once you start taking action, you never know what kind of opportunity can come for you. Like you might be doing something, but then like something completely different comes up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then that's like an even better opportunity than you thought. And so it's like it's pretty crazy, you know, how that really works out.
100%. And those 2 years are going to go by regardless. Like those 2 years are going by regardless. It's either going to look the way you want it to look, or you're going to just scroll through social media. You're not going to make any progress at all, which there's plenty of people out there where they're like, man, I'm doing the same shit it was last year. You know, I'm sure everybody has those friends where it's like, they're doing the same things they were last year, not really progressing. So not being one of those people and still kind of making progress, I think is key to just happiness. I don't even think it's like material possessions or actual money. I think it's literally just trying to make progress is what makes people happy. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be about business. It could be about anything at all. But I think just progress in general is what helps out with happiness, you know?
Yeah. And you have to realize it's never going to be easy. Like good
Right.
things and progress, it's not easy. So a lot of people are like, okay, yeah, like that sounds nice. Like, okay, I'm going to be progressing, but then it's like, what's the easiest way to do it? Like, there's no easy ways. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's
It's
really
always
hard.
boring. It's always boring.
It's
I'm sure when you were
it,
sitting there
it
copy pasting the parcel numbers, you were bored as shit. You're just like, dude, this is, and you're
bored.
questioning it probably too. You're like, is this even worth it? But if you just keep going, because at the end of the day, everybody has those same thoughts. They're just like, man, this is boring as shit. Like, I don't want to do this, but it's like, you just keep going, you know?
I still question it sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, I'm like, dude, I fucking hate this. But then I'm like, excuse my language. But then I'm like, at the same time, I'm like, dude, I love this. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? It's the grind. Like,
Yeah.
it's the hustle. Like, it's gonna suck. Like when you have deals fall through and like things don't go your way. But it's all part of it. Like, you know what I mean? So it,
100%,
you
man.
know,
Yeah, it's a
it'll
matter
it'll
of
work
just
out.
keep going. Like, don't stop, even if it is boring. It's boring for everybody. There's no CEO in the world that like they're absolutely obsessed with what they do. You got to get through the muck eventually, you know. So 100%.
Yeah. And once
So
you start putting out into the universe that, you know, you're willing to go through the trenches and you're willing to go through the hard and boring times, you know, then things are going to start coming back to you. I don't know. It just happens. Like, I don't know anybody that didn't commit themselves for like to do something. And like, usually, like, if you fail, it's because you weren't consistent or you weren't motivated enough. And if you're consistent, I don't care. Like, what you're doing, you'll be successful at one point. Obviously, you have to do the right things, but if you're doing the right things consistently, you will. It's inevitable. You will be successful in some facet of your life.
100%. And finding those right things is not really too hard. I'm sure when you're researching stuff like that, it's like everybody's saying the same stuff about pretty much the cat is out of the bag in every single industry. Like everybody knows what exactly to do. Like you were just
Absolutely.
The tax delinquents, like everybody knows what to do. It's just the information is out there. Just 99.9% won't even take that first step to begin with.
Yeah. And that's why, and I think it's really funny whenever you post something about or just a person posts something about do this, and then they're like, why are you telling everybody? Why don't you just do it yourself? Because isn't everybody going to know now, and now it's going to be too competitive? And I'm like, I'll be honest with you and probably 99% of other people are not going to do this. You guys are going to listen. You guys are going to think it's cool. You're going to want to do it, but you're never going to do it.
Yeah.
And it's simply because, most never get started, and the other most never succeed. So
100%. Yeah, no. And I love how one thing that I love doing, I'm not sure if you do it too, but I love watching just like CEO interviews from like, just like a bunch of and so interesting seeing how everybody has the same freaking answer to like, and they could be in totally different industries. They're just like, hey, what do you do? And they kind of repeat the same stuff over and over and over. So
absolutely,
really no like secret. It's just action. And everybody literally says you got to just start doing. And it's like people are still overthinking. So
yeah. It's simple. It's really, it goes down to the basics. It's like every business, starts off with the core principles, and, it differs and, gets more complex as you get bigger. But, the beginning, it's always, start off with nothing. You get the principles, you do them in a set order, and you're consistent about it, and good things will happen.
100%, man. 100%. So cool, man. Thank you so much for hopping on here. And where can people find you? Like where are you mainly at right now? I know you just started a YouTube channel. I'm going to have all of Vlad's information down below as well. So his TikTok, his YouTube, this dude's a freaking monster, especially if you're trying to do wholesaling, flipping, anything, guys. The link is down below. Absolutely follow. Just keep collecting information. But just like Vlad always says, and I do as well, collect information for a period of time. Don't do it forever. And you got to just start doing, my job is not to have a bajillion followers. I would much rather you guys consume whatever you need to consume to learn and just start doing it. I'm sure Vlad could say the same. It's learn what you need to learn and then just go do.
Absolutely. You don't need to be an expert in anything when you start out, because you'll get expertise as you're going through it. You don't need to know every single nuance of every single thing when you're starting out. Once you know the basics, go out, take action, see if it's for you, see if you even enjoy doing it. And then at that point, it goes from there.
100%.
And if you guys want to reach out to me, I'm the Vlad Plot, TheVLAD on on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and if you guys want to follow me on or subscribe on YouTube, Vlad Plotnikov. Yeah, that's what it is, and pretty active on there too. Make videos and stuff like that, mostly about real estate. But shout out to this guy. Appreciate you having me on, and this is dope. Look forward to seeing what this becomes.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah. So guys, like I said, absolutely follow him. He'll be kind of posting his progress as far as his flips, and you can actually see what a flipping business looks like. He's doing his first one right now. He's already done wholesale. So you'll see his progress of like, hey, I'm doing 1, I'm doing 5. Eventually he'll be doing 10, 20, 30, 40, and you'll see the progression of what he's doing. So follow him, guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. That was episode number 2 of the Man It Podcast. And I'm going to have the next one start playing automatically. Like I said, guys, comment any questions down below. Let's make some money and get back to work.